I've actually got that written on my notes.
You've got notes? Hello everybody, welcome to the Deep Drop. Luke McCredden here, and with me Adam Ring as always. Ads, we're back. It's been a couple of weeks. We've just had a couple of weeks to ourselves to unwind and, get fired up again. But it's good to be back. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, and a couple of things straight off the bat. 2 weeks feels like it's been 3 years. There's been a lot go on. We've had work trips, we've had family matters, we've had coughs and colds and bits and pieces, which I know got me an absolute beauty towards the end of the last episode that we recorded. But Luke, I want to send out a big shout out to you. Happy birthday, my friend. For everybody listening to this podcast, it was Luke's birthday last week. Big celebrations. He's a great man, and he spent the day with his family, and it's exactly the way it should be. So, mate, happy birthday to you, and mate, here's to heaps more.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very, very nice of you. And it's for anyone playing along at home, I have joined a fishing club, and I'm now a fly fisherman.
You didn't turn 65, did you?
No, pretty close. No, look, it's good. It's one of those milestone ones, but whatever, doesn't matter. It's just a number. But I did enjoy in the lead up to my birthday a solid week in the Whitsundays, which was not all glamour. It was work, and I know everyone goes, "Oh, you're on a Whitsunday, that's not work." It was, but it was nice. Don't get me wrong. Got a bit of a tan, did a little bit of fishing, but yeah, we were there to work. But it was nice to get up into the sunshine, Ads. But I tell you what, as we're recording this week is an absolute belter down here in Victoria.
Yeah, that's right. A string of mid-20s, I guess, as we're recording, and for a few days forecast. So it's great to have a little bit of that beautiful spring weather. I think we're going to have some cold nights and beautiful warm days, which, Luke, I was so done with winter. How nice is it to be able to just roll around comfortably in a t-shirt?
Are you calling it? It's over.
Listen,
don't go too early.
I've lived in Melbourne my whole life, so I'm not willing to go that far and say that it's over. But it's nice to have some good days.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be back on board, and thanks everyone for staying with us. And I know there was a few messages come through over the last couple of weeks, so it's great to still be in touch with everyone, Ads. And good to get back into it. We've got so much to go through. We've got lots coming up in the next few months, which we're excited to talk to you guys about very soon. We left, and I should just sort of start off. We left the last show before we had a bit of a break, Ads. There was a number of things we spoke about. One of them keeps popping up, so we need to just tie that loose end off, and because it was a really interesting one. We spoke last episode about kingfish, using lures for kingfish, trolling lures for kingfish, and we spoke a bit about, is it something we really do? Like, is it the first thought to put something on, and could it get you out of a donut situation and whatever else? But lots of great feedback once again, and just want to go through a few of the options or a few of the ideas that some of our Instagram friends have shared with us. The Deep Drop on Instagram is where you can get involved, by the way. Great place to get involved and share with us anything. We're just sharers, aren't we, Ads? We're not
sharers, yeah.
Too embarrassed to say anything, so just tell us how you feel. All right, just to rip through them. King Brown Diver works a treat. I mean, King Brown.
Yeah.
King Brown.
King Brown, yep.
Yeah. Luke's gone fishing. Helcos, Sluggos, and Z-Man Heroes are all work. Another super popular option is the Williamson Jet Popper.
Trolled.
And I must say, I have done that. I have done that whilst trolling live baits. Just chuck the popper out the back for it, cause a bit of a commotion. I have caught kingfish on the Jet Popper. Little bibbed Helco redhead gets them up and about. Funnily enough, I have caught on little, and it wasn't Helco that I was using at the time, but small diving redhead lures I have actually caught kingfish on. So that's interesting. That's from Mumbo Jumbo Fishing.
Nice.
And Rowan Atard90 says, yeah, do it regularly offshore, Port Welsh Pool, Halco divers or skirts. Especially trying to get someone their first little one to get ready for the big ones. That's not bad.
Nice.
That's an interesting point, actually. Yeah. Whether or not you get bigger, that's a whole other conversation, but it's not a bad way to get some of those rats just for a bit of a, bit of a play.
Well, it's a good way to search around and find them, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the last one was caught heaps on Pakula Uzis. So for those playing at home, they're the small ones. And we did mention that. We spoke about some of those little Lockie skirts and trolling them around. So there you go. But yeah, lots of great feedback once again on all the topics from last episode and all the previous episodes. So thanks for getting involved. And hopefully after this one, we get more ideas and feedback as well, because we've got a few things to go through, ads.
We have.
And I wanted to kick off because I did do a bit of fishing while I was away last week and caught a rather nice fish. Now, it was a big nanagai, so anyone from up that northern part of Australia will know those big, beautiful, big red fish, reef fish. What I didn't realise, and straight off the bat, first time I've caught one, is how hard they pull. Now, I know, it sounds silly. Like, I know that a lot of those big reefies up that way pull hard. There's no doubt about it. I don't know whether, catching it on a jig's got something to do with it. I always feel like a moving lure gets hit a bit harder, but Jesus Christ, it was an absolute, I had an absolute ball. We might even share that little video.
Yeah, put the video up for sure.
For people to have a bit of a look at, but it sort of got me thinking, and like, I love, we're the biggest advocates for Victorian fishing, ads, you and I. We often go on about how good it is, but I feel like now, are we a big, hard fighting reef species short?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we are. We're probably half a dozen big tooth pelagic species short too.
Yeah, I know. And we all know that it'd be nice to have, GTs and all the fashionable glamour fish, right? But sometimes you think, or you forget just about some of those reefies, whether it's coral trout, big nannies, like that sort of stuff that you go far out there fun. If you want to have fun with them, they can be so much fun.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting thing. I think Victoria, insanely diverse fishery. There's so many different things you can do, and we do have some unbelievable species with some. But you're right. There's nothing quite like trying to turn the head of a big reef species that only knows one way and it's down. It's very different to trying to fight a pelagic species. But Luke, we did watch a video of yourself, and we will put it up on the Deep Drop socials, because I think it's really interesting to watch. And there's one thing that stood out to me straight away.
How bad I am at angling?
No. Actually, Actually, the opposite. How freaking good is modern day tackle?
Oh, mate, yeah. Oh, actually, and I should kick off by saying that I was very fortunate enough to fish with Mark Dunphy and Cole Tannehill from Shimano. So I was on a boat purely fishing Shimano gear and a whole range of gear too. So we had everything from heavy spin outfits to light jigging outfits to everything. But you're absolutely spot on. All of a sudden, you're looking at rods and reels for hard fighting, hard pulling, angry fish that don't look like you should be using it for that.
No, and that's what I mean. How good modern tackle is. What in the video, the best way to describe what you're using kind of looked like a cod bait casting outfit.
Yeah, that's
or
true.
A barra bait casting outfit, and this is pulling and designed to extract really big bottom fish on jigs.
Yeah.
And this has always been something that's interesting for me, Luke. Being someone who's come from the retail side of the tackle trade, being a tackle junkie, loving all of the specs and what everything's designed to do and where it fits into the landscape, which is modern fishing tackle. I very quickly learned throughout my years that the theory of something and then the practical application are two completely different things.
Yes. Yeah.
Theory is really quite easy. And the most amazing thing about fishing is it is really quickly, it is really interesting how theory gets thrown out the window when put into a practical sense.
Yeah.
So I'm watching you fight this nanny off the bottom on some modern day tackle that looks like a light bait caster outfit. I'm watching a rod that bends all the way through to the butt where the reel joins the rod, which 15 years ago, unheard of. Yeah. And this is the biggest advancement to me in rod technology specifically. We'll talk about reels in a minute because the reel you're using was really quite special as well. But these rods, we've hit a point in rod technology where it's not just about what the rod can do with the lure or the jig or how well it can pull a fish off the bottom. They're also designed so that you get maximum pressure on the fish with the least amount of pressure on the angler. So that's the biggest thing out of this video that I want everyone to watch, I want everyone to comment, and I want everyone to understand. This rod that you're using is designed to pull a big fish off the bottom, but is not designed to break your back while trying to do it. And that's where the issue 15 years ago with jigging rods, that's where it was. The rods were really short. They were insanely stiff. Once you start talking about PE 5 plus, PE 5, 6, 8, even 10, you can dominate a fish off the bottom, but you almost needed to be harnessed up and someone holding onto the harness so that you don't go flying over with it because it was putting just as much strain on the angler as it was on the fish. With modern tackle, I'm watching you fight a really good nanny, like as big as they get nanny. It wasn't small, but you seem to be doing it comfortably, as in standing on the boat in the conditions present comfortably, putting maximum amount of pressure on that fish. That's why modern tackle's so bloody good.
Mate, what a great summation, because it was really interesting. And if we just turn the clock back, I'm going to say, showing my age, 15 to 20 years ago when I was younger, and we'll talk about jigging because that's what we were doing. You're absolutely spot on. The rods were broomsticks. They were, you couldn't even put a bend in them with while you were standing on shore just holding them. But that's kind of what you had to use because you were using big jigs and you were catching heavy fish and you were sort of heavy line class and all that sort of thing. But then you go out last week and I'm going, it goes against everything that you did 20 years ago, or certainly, visually. Like it's, as you say, it was very much, it looks like a thin stick, but you couldn't have hit the nail on the head better. I think not only does it do the job 100%, like it was a great outfit to use and obviously did the job on a really big fish. At the end of it, I was okay to go again. I wasn't fucked.
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest difference and the biggest takeaway from me was it was less strenuous. Even using it. So obviously we all know that it's not one drop, one fish. You know, when you're jigging, after a while it's quite tiring, whether you've caught fish or not. So using that outfit and again, just modern technology in general, modern tackle in general, you're not wearing yourself out 2 hours before you even hook up. You can fish all day and catch a few of those fish, and you're not as physically buggered as you once were, and that was one of the biggest takeaways for me for sure. And that's not just the weight of the outfit too; that's the whole technology that goes into the whole, the whole rod blank, reels. I mean, God, reels we were using, years ago were probably 4 times the weight of what you sort of use now. So it's that alone. Very much the weight of the outfit, but it's, as I said, it's more than that. It's the design. They're designed to be comfortable.
They are, and where there's been further development too is we've seen probably all of the big jumps as far as a material aspect goes into creating a fishing rod. We're now at a point where we're designing a complete fishing system. So rod, reel, line, lure. And this doesn't just go for jigging, it goes for everything. There's this system that's been created for what you were doing. So that was in a pitched / flutter jigging arrangement.
Yeah, exactly.
you were using overhead, which I want to talk to you about in a minute, because there is a point to that too, though you can pick up the same gear in spin.
Yep.
With the application of what you're doing, the jigs don't work on their own. So they've created these tapers in these rods to not only put maximum pressure on fish, least amount of pressure on the angler, but they also need to be able to work the jig, because you're getting the required action from the jig out of the rod tip. There's so much that goes into to designing this gear, and it's all one big system. And that's why I think with rods, we've always looked at the weight of a rod or its application in the grand scheme of things as by the line weight.
Yep.
And though it's important, we have never spoken about what a rod is weighted for lure-wise. Jigging opened us up to this.
Yep.
Where a jig rod would say, okay, this specific weight of rod is designed for 130 to 250 gram jigs.
Yeah.
I think that applies to light rods too. And it's something that's become quite popular to talk about and even think about, because where lure fishing is as big as it's ever been. The amount of lures that you can access in Australia now is the greatest it's ever been.
Yeah.
And we're also getting very specific with how we want to fish. So we're ready to look at lure weight, and we need a rod that's capable of getting the most action and casting distance out of that lure. So again, it's a system. Yeah. It's not just, I'm going to go trout fishing, so I'm going to get a 1 to 3 kilo rod. No.
And this shopping experience now is part of that. You can go online and search by, or I'll use an example of rods, in jigging rods, and quite often there'll be a column that is jig weight.
Yep.
And sometimes that might be the first column you look at, because you go, well, I know I'm going to be jigging with 200 to 350 gram jigs, so I need to make sure first and foremost it can do that.
And and in jigging, it's critically important, because if you try and put if you're using a jig rod that's weighted to 200 grams, and its desired weight is a 200 gram jig, and you start using a 100 gram jig, it is so much harder as an angler to get the desired action out of the jig, because it's not just about muscling the jig. It's a rhythm with rod and reel. It's using the tip to bounce the jig, which gives action. Yeah. It's all of these little things.
Well, that's part of the thing too. Like, again, speaking about the rods from yesteryear, they were all stiff. You couldn't, and obviously the development of jigs and lures have come a long way too, so it had to sort of follow suit, but you couldn't put the action into some of those flutter jigs with stiff broomstick rods. You just couldn't get that sort of, swift sort of movement to give it, like you said, the tip action to give it the lure, the action it needs. So the whole category has come such a long way, but geez, it's just, it just never ceases to amaze me. You just grab something new, and whether it's a lure or it's a rod or it's a reel, and you go, yeah, wow, this times have changed. Now you and I ads have played around over the years with a million different outfits, whether we're in store mucking around with them, or we're out in the water trying them out. And we've probably, I suppose, unintentionally sort of seen that progression into where it is now, but it's not until you sort of spend a few time, actually get your hands on the latest gear, and we're lucky enough to be in the tackle industry, mate, so we do get our hands on a lot of gear, but you sort of think it's incredible innovation, really, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. And that's, like I said, that's where we're at. I think we've seen the huge leaps and bounds in technology as far as, game-changing materials, or the way... We're now at a point where we're fine-tuning everything to a point where you're purchasing a complete fishing system. It's the only way to describe it. And it's really cool, because it does make you delve into the tackle part of it. And to me, that's so friggin' cool.
Oh, it's so cool. And
I almost love the tackle more than the actual fishing. I love it so much.
You and I have always probably spent more time on the tackle side of things and understanding it, and mucking around with different than we actually have on the water. That trip it's potentially going to cost me a fucking fortune, though. It's because the end of the trip, I said, Mark, I'll have one of those. Just send them down. We'll sort it out.
Well, the reel, I really quickly want to touch on the reel because it has a very unique feature in it that I think is a testament to how good the rods are. That little reel you were using has a little button or a little clicker on the side of it that locks the spool. So we got brought up with fishing tackle saying the drag is your friend. Yeah. Not in the case of this reel. So it's a tiny little reel. It's a 1500 to 2000 size reel. An ocean jigger is what we're talking about. It's tiny.
I'm just thinking, what I might do, I might actually just looking now. I might screenshot a picture or something and throw that onto Instagram as well for those who aren't aware of what we're talking about. But
it's tiny. It's about the size of an old school 200 size drum reel that you would have used for casting at Barra.
Yeah, that's a fair call.
Which used to max out at a 5 kilo max drag capacity. This thing is clearly pulling more than 5 kilos of max drag, but for that first initial hit, where whether it's a big nanny or whether it's a doggy, whether it's a king, if you hook one of those big reef species close to the bottom, it's crucial that you turn the head. So the lock button's not designed for you to fight the fish with zero drag, because I guarantee you'll end up breaking rods, line, or just pulling way too many hooks. But that lock button gives you that quick 3 seconds to turn a fish's head, which then can be disengaged and you can fight the fish like normal, giving it line when it needs to. It's unbelievable technology. It's so finely tuned and well thought of for exactly what its purpose was.
Yeah.
And is. It's so freaking cool.
The thing for me, obviously, with jigging, I am a fan of overhead. I do prefer fishing overhead for jigging than I do, whether it's light jigging or heavy tackle jigging. The thing with these small body reels, and it is crazy to think about coming from where we were once upon a time, but they more or less fit in the palm, almost in the palm of your hand when you're holding it. It's all about comfortability, as we said before, the ability to fish all day. Just to give you an example, the 1500 size reels and, well, even the 2000 size, 400 grams, the 1500. The 2000 is just shy of 600 grams. Like, it's fuck all.
It's nothing.
It's so
nothing.
light. Yet we're talking about, pulling, well, what is it, 7 or 10 kilos or something like that of drag. But, yeah, the comfortability of it, still, obviously, plenty of line, room for plenty of heavy line if you want to, if you desire. But, it's crazy to think. I'd love to go back in a time machine and sort of put it on the table to someone, maybe even 40 years ago and say, I'll catch a kingy or a tuna or whatever on this, and they'd just go.
Well, it's insane because even from our time way back when we were in the shop, like, do you know what those reels were? They were Trinidad 30s and Torsa 20s.
Yep, 100%.
And they were enormous. They weighed about 1.5 kilos, 2 kilos at throw.
They were relatively comfortable back then. So
that's right.
You can only imagine. Yeah, so it's come a long way, but it's it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, they're not cheap, so
no.
But the thing is, the beauty of it is, like, we're talking about one example. There are some great examples of that modern day tackle for any application of fishing, really. But when it comes to jigging and stuff, there actually are a lot of options, which is really exciting. But even with those light rods going back not too long ago, but it was almost the first light jigging, commercially popular light jigging sort of rods when they hit the market that took everyone by surprise, and that was Gamoku a little bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So like, they look so thin, but and even loaded up, they're just almost doing a full circle on themselves, but geez, they still held the power. Yeah,
they did, and Gamoku probably was the first, in Victoria, I'm not sure about the rest of the country, but in Victoria especially, it was probably the first slow jig rod that really took off. It had a really unique look about it for the time. Bright colours, cartoony graphics, white blanks. It was pretty out there. But I think Victorians latched onto them for their versatility. They were designed as a jig rod, and even to this day, they're still current. They've just been redone again for this year, so you'll see them in your local shops with a newly updated cosmetic. There's an extra weight in there of an extra heavy.
Yeah, cool. Are there still some cool colours?
They are. They're all still white, but instead of the grips, the EVA grips being coloured, they're decked out in different coloured checks.
Oh, nice.
They're so much. They look so much more classy in my opinion. And I loved the old rods. I think they were great. But in Victoria, we just saw a light application 6-foot rod. There was guys chucking squid jigs with them. There was guys just bait fishing snapper because they preferred lighter rods.
Yep.
So there's more to them than just that, but they are designed for such a specific application in mind that when you do use a rod for that especially that flutter jigging, it's so cool. It's so cool.
It really opens up the possibility of what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's right.
As opposed to really being sort of pigeonholed into one sort of style or even one thing you can do. Some of these new rods. I'd almost say the rod technologies. It's probably going to open a can of worms, but I won't say more important. But it's as crucial as anything. I think you can probably get, like, if we're talking about snapper or something like that, you could probably get away with a myriad of different reels, if you know what I mean. But if you've got the right rod with the right, taper and the right sort of feel for what it is you're doing, that's pretty crucial.
It is. And listen, I've said this for a long time, and I still maintain it. I still say it. Fishing is unbelievable because you can't really do it wrong. So, from someone who loves fishing tackle and likes to know the ins and outs of it, I can sell you or I can tell you exactly what you need for the specific item you need it. But at the end of the day, if you want to go down to a trout stream with a 7 kilo, essentially fiberglass snapper rod and cast a spinner, you kind of can, and you can catch a trout. It might not be that much fun, but
this is my challenge for you for the next couple of weeks, Ads. I would love to see nothing more than you with the 7 to 10 kilo ugly stick. Casting a spinner. What's a spinner? 3.5 grams or something?
Yeah,
like that?
It'd have to be a number 3 spinner. When I get a number 1, 0 is not going to cut it. But my point is, you can make it work. Yeah. But when you absorb yourself in what's around and what it's for, it not only makes for a more enjoyable fishing experience, but even with our fishing, we don't like to fuck around. We want everything to be as efficient as possible straight off the bat, and that's what modern fishing tackle does. You can do anything with any sort of tackle, but it won't be efficient. Therefore, it's frustrating. You can't get desired actions out of the lures that you're using. It's casting like a tank, and it's just not enjoyable. You actually hook a fish, you can barely feel the rod moving.
Yeah.
So there's a time and a place for everything. Fishing tackle's the best it's ever been. It's still getting better, but it's getting fine-tuned to a point where now fishing is so efficient, it's easy to get desired actions out of lures, which means you're catching more fish, which means you want to go fishing more. It makes perfect sense.
It does. Do you know what I love about fishing, Ads? And a lot of things, obviously. We talk about it all the time. You know, when you think you've got a fair grasp on whatever you're doing, whether it's fishing or whether it's fucking lawn bowls, whatever. But then comes a time when the heat's on and you kind of forget everything. I think fishing's one of those great ones where you know, as I said, you and we've been in the game long enough. We should know enough, and I'm confident that I know enough, you know, on paper. But sometimes you just hook up and you forget everything you ever know, and you're just holding on and panicking.
Yeah, because the fish and the conditions don't give a fuck about our theory.
Yes, and I love it.
And it's so frustrating because you go out there, you've got all these beautiful knots that everything's perfect.
Check out me FG.
You're out there, you know, you're out there fishing with a $3,500 combo, and your bloody
life's good.
Tackle box is full of, you know, 40-gram jigs that you've pulled all the rigging off and re-rigged them because you've seen a better way, and you go out there and the conditions go, nah.
No, mate, not today.
Not that shit. Not here. And then the fish look at you and go, nah. And then old mate next to you does chuck his number 3 spinner with his 10-kilo snapper outfit and catches 6. Yeah. And you think, fishing's taking the piss here.
You think you've done all this great sort of homework and you've said, how good's fishing, life's great. And then that happens, you go, fishing's fucking shit.
Yep, which is exactly why it's the best thing ever. You never, ever clock it. It doesn't matter how good your gear is. It doesn't matter how much you want to spend on lures. You will never clock it.
It's like even when things get exciting, isn't it? Because, and you're spot on, you can't clock it because you can go out and we've got some tuna biting out locally now, ads, and you can have everything ready to go. And it doesn't always have to turn to shit. It could all of a sudden you look around and you've got an acre of tuna busting up, and there's a part of you that goes, fucking, what do I do? Like,
that's right. There's too many options.
Yeah. It's just great. And it just throws curveballs I reckon 99% of the trips there'll be some sort of curveball.
Oh, for sure.
Whether it's a big curveball or it's a little one, it's just something.
Rarely does it all fall into place perfectly. And when it does, it's the best thing ever. Yeah. It's the best because you start catching fish on lures that you never thought you'd ever tie on, and the fish don't care. They're just in a frenzy. Yeah. But it validates all of your spending habits on the outrageous gear. It's the best. But look, you mentioned tuna, and it's probably a good segue into something else I want to talk about. There's been, and we're currently in the middle of a insane bluefin bite out the western entrance of Western Port. The fish are in close. They're anywhere from 70 to 120 kilos. Oh. They're big. There's fish getting caught solo. There's guys getting their first one. There's guys getting their 101st. Like, it's all happening. But it sort of got me thinking about trolling, and because that's how these fish are getting
King
caught.
Brown.
Probably are actually.
End of story. Next topic.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah, right. You answered my question. But do you think there's other species that we can take? And hear me out, because it's going to sound silly until I explain myself.
That's what the deep drop's all about, ads. That's what. And if no one's worked that out until this point,
do you think we can take elements of trout trolling, turn it, upscale it into a blue water application and catch more bluefin? Now, hear me out. Bluefin are notorious at times for being switched on to small bait. The issue is, it is really quite difficult to troll anything efficiently that's small with 50 to 80 pound tackle in order to catch these fish. So,
I fucking love where you're going with this, by the way.
You have a look at trout trollers. One thing that they'll do, say, let's go old school, towing a Tassie around Dartmouth. What they'll do sometimes is tie an extra bit of leader off the back of the treble that's got the Tassie on it, and they'll have a trailing fly. What if when the bluefin are switched on to small bait, what if you took your Laser Pro or X-Rap, DTX Minnow, whatever you're trolling, you're able to find, and it would take some mucking around with. I haven't done this. I'm just throwing it out there as a theory exercise. Would there be a way to efficiently attach a trailing plastic that's only 3 inches long or 4 inches long, whatever you need to match the bait out there? You could even go 100%. As far to say, what if, all right, here's a scenario. It's just come to me. You take your diving minnow, take the back treble off, run a single on the front only, but on the back ring where you would put the treble, piss that off.
Yep.
Crimp another little bit of leader so you've got a reliable connection.
Yep.
You're essentially using the hard body to get you to depth where you can run a 4-inch soft plastic.
I love it. I was just having a look. I thought I might have had one in here. I was going to just have a look because I think on a lot of the good hard bodies, and we'll use X-Rap for example, that solid ring at the back should be a strong enough tow point.
Well,
I mean, ultimately, it holds a hook that.
Well,
will
they're all
hold a
wire
fish.
through. They're all wire
Exactly,
through. So you don't.
exactly.
You're not necessarily going to pull the arse out of it. But
Would you bother rigging that? By the way, I know we can probably kind of get back into that in a minute, but I'm straight away thinking of it being just purely a leverage to get a small plastic down deep. I mean, I love the idea. Does it become a weak spot?
well,
when
that's
you're fighting a fish.
Well, that's what I mean. Potentially, I don't know, and there might be a better way of rigging it. There might be a better way.
Straight away.
Well, actually, what if?
Straight away, when you were talking about trout, trolling for trout, my mind straight away went to downriggers.
Well,
And
I've
I'm just
actually got that
thinking,
written on my notes.
Is anyone... You've got notes?
Hey, I've had a 2-week break. I'm fresh
You've
and
got
ready
an
to go.
A4 page full. But is anyone... I mean, look, I know... Sometimes when you talk about this, we talk about this stuff all the time off air as well. We end up coming around going, are we just overcomplicating it? And maybe in this case, if it's working trolling skirts and hard bodies as they are. But to your point, when it's finished, we've seen over the years so many times they're tough because all they're feeding on is a 3-inch bloody whitebait or something.
Yeah.
So is anyone using downriggers? And because am I fair? Am I right in saying or accurate in saying that if you use a downrigger, you could potentially run any size lure off?
You
Is
can.
that right?
The only downfall I can see to a downrigger is how would the actual downrigger boom cope towing, say, a 10-ounce trolling weight at 6 to 8 knots?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know either. I don't know either.
That's a good one because I mean, typically, I think the majority of people that might use them in sort of say offshore might be trolling baits, which typically is a lot slower.
Yeah,
is that fair call? Like the kings or snapper or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, this is perfect
but
to ask the people out there because
if you could get a really streamlined downrigger bomb, that would automatically eliminate a lot.
Fuck. Did we just come up with a new downrigger bomb?
Maybe.
Patent pending?
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's something there. It would require. Maybe don't try it when there's 100 kilo fish around because it matters if you bust one of them off because an extra crimp or some extra leverage on a hard body rips the ass out of it. I don't know. It'd be a great one to muck around with on a school fish.
100%. But that's also why I'm thinking downrigger because you don't have an extra join, right?
Yeah, you can, and it'll pop off
your main line.
Yeah. The other thing too would be getting a downrigger clip that's capable of holding. Oh no, sorry, no, that's irrelevant because you're not using a bib to minnow. Bib to minnows create heaps of drag.
I'm thinking, off those downriggers, you could run little Ockie skirts, or little like soft plastics or whatever it is. Like, I mean, even like. Yeah, I mean, you could come up with whatever you want because ultimately the issue isn't getting it down there anymore. You're going to have it down there with a downrigger.
That's right.
Can we just put it out there because we've got some really talented blue water anglers that listen to this. I know that for a fact because we've had some great feedback. Can we ask, is what we're talking about a viable option?
And better yet, if you've done it or you are doing it, I would love post a photo.
Show us your rig.
Post a photo, get your rig out and show us. Because I think there's something here. The theory of it, again, is good. In a practical sense, I don't know. I've never done it. But there's something there. There's got to be a way to get a 3-inch octopus skirt or a 4-inch plastic. There's got to be something that can be done. It could be a 5-gram metal slug because they're on tiny.
Yeah.
They're on tiny. There's got to be a way to get them down to depth without having to downsize your tackle to a point where you're not going to be able to land the fish.
Now, we've heard over the last couple of years with this amazing bluefin tuna fishery that is right at our doorstep, there's that same old story about that 30 to 70 kilo fish bracket not being caught as much or whatever. But we've heard from divers that see them regularly, schools of them that they call for that sort in that size within that size bracket. I'm just thinking, if you just go straight out there and run small plastics or small skirts off downriggers, does that open you up to that sort of a different class of fish?
Great question.
Yeah.
Because they are there.
Yeah.
And you'd think from an age perspective, those 30 to 60, 70 kilo fish, they're not the dumb ones. You know what?
No.
Small...
They've
small,
been around.
Yeah, small bluefin are they're just dumb. They'll eat just out of the sake of there's heaps happening, I better eat it. Whereas a 30
like
to...
kids.
Yeah, that's right. A 30 to 70... Yeah. A 30 to 70 is like, I know what's up here. And then you can see why big baits work for jumbo fish because those lures are small compared to those big things. But
yeah, that's a great one. Great call out ads. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing from some people about this one. Downriggers for bluefin, or concocting a bit of a rig that can get small skirts or small plastics down into the strike zone.
Because I remember Rayner doing this years ago on Snapper, where he'd run a deep diver underneath, whether it was a Tilson Barra or a Rapala tail dancer, but he would actually run a dropper that sat above the hard body that had a plastic on it. I think that in a blue water sense, that would be tough to have reliable rigging everywhere because you're creating a lot of different joins, whereas snapper aren't necessarily going to completely annihilate rigging.
Yeah,
but we should be a way.
We should get him back on the show.
Yeah,
ask him. I'll ask him.
There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way.
It's one of those ones where, in theory, it should absolutely work. Like, it shouldn't not work. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of the, but yes, maybe you need a bit more gear. If you might need a downrigger. Or if you're just running them off the lures, as you say, all of a sudden that eliminates the need to have said downrigger and different gear.
It's just cinching up the rigging and making sure that it's... Because I don't know what extra pressure would get put on the hard body with the fish fighting off its arse end a foot behind it or 2 foot behind it.
Or even swimming, would it not that you necessarily need it swimming beautifully like it, to attract fish, because ultimately it's a tool to get the other lure down, but will having something tied to the back of it cause it to flip around or spin around, or you reckon it should be okay?
Yeah, it should be all right, especially because you're only fishing small, but you have made me think, how would you go fighting a fish when the bibbed lure being so far out in front, all that wants to do is dig in? Because you know what I mean? When a bluefin hits a normal lure, it's sideways, so the bib's useless anyway.
I just have flashbacks to trying to fight a fish with a
dredge bar. Fucking
dredge bar attached.
Actually, I'll take that back.
Same.
If you can land a 100 kilo fish with a dredge bar hanging off its face, then I'm sure a deep diving bloody hard body's not going to be an issue.
No, I think I don't mind it, mate. I think there's 2 situations there that could work very well. So tying a small lure off, and how far would you run that, by the way? Back, decent amount.
Oh no, I reckon you wouldn't be able to run it too far back because you can only wind the lure so far. So you could have that, and then your fish is still too far. I think within a few foot, 2 or 3 foot.
Oh, that close.
Keep it close, because you would essentially then. You'd essentially be then. You're sort of creating your own sort of.
Teaser.
And you're sort of creating your own circle of life down there. You've got these little fish with other fish, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
totally
a bit weird. There's something to it. I just don't know. I'm not convinced on the rigging side of it, but
all right,
there's some stuff to muck around with.
There's your homework for this week, Adam. Do some rigging, see how it goes, mate. A lot to look forward to. These next few months is absolute prime here in Victoria, and as we lead into the end of the year, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing the deep drop throughout the year and hearing, because let's face it, we're going to be talking about more, I suppose, reports and things that are happening, aren't we? Because winter
is shit. Just saying.
We're back. Sun's out. The snapper about to chew their faces off. Tuna are going nuts already. Kingies are going to be off their tree this year.
Luke, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that here at the Deep Drop we've just finally had some good weather, and in the first episode back we asked you to send in a photo of your rig. So, that's how we roll here.
Absolutely, I think it's great, and I just think Get out there. Get amongst it. The time is now. The footy's only a couple of weeks to go. I was going to say who cares, but both our sides are in it, Ad, so we do care. As much as we're like, hurry up and get over with so we can go fishing every weekend.
A couple of weeks to go.
We're still amongst it. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in again. It's great to be back after a couple of weeks. Just needed a couple of bit of a. It's like our.
We had an audio.
It's like an audio.
Yeah.
2 audios. Yeah. Whatever. That's okay. We're back. As always, get involved. Instagram, the Deep Drop is where you can find us. If you jump on Spotify, there's always some interaction there, some questions and some polls you can get involved in.
Send us your tuna rig. Send us your tuna
rig. Speaking of tunes...
Ooh, it's been a while since we've done an update.
Well, actually, you're right. The Deep Drop Fishing Tunes is on Spotify, and it's a playlist that we've put together and we've had some great suggestions from you guys as well. But you're right.
We need an update. All right.
And I won't lie. I smash out that playlist. Like, I listen to it a lot. Yeah.
So send in your tune suggestions. Listen, have a listen to the playlist first, because we're not going to add any shit. It's a niche playlist. You'll pick up pretty quickly on the vibe that we're going for.
Yeah, once you get the vibe, there's a no shit policy. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
No shit.
And we are the curators of shit. We will not put it on there.
We are the ones who have the final say. But there's been some great suggestions that have made the list from people, Ads. So keep them coming. You're right. We're due for an update.
Send us a couple of suggestions, everyone out there.
Well, what we'll do, we'll chuck it during the week. We'll chuck it on Instagram where you can actually add in your suggestion into the story.
Yes.
So do it that way.
Yep.
And keep listening. Tell your friends about it. We've got heaps of cool stuff coming up, which I think you're going to enjoy over the coming months. I think you're going to enjoy it. That is us. That's the Deep Drop for another week. We are back, baby. See ya, Ads.
Peace.